Today you're going to learn a few American expressions that we genuinely use in real life, and they don't always make sense. So it's really good for you to be exposed to them so that you can understand them when native speakers use them. However, you're probably not here just so you can improve your listening skills. You probably want to improve your speaking skills. And for that, you gotta speak. So what I want you to do is pause the video after every expression, repeat after me, listen to the pronunciation and intonation, but really visualize yourself using the expression. And then in the comments, write a sentence using the expression. We want to make sure that it's not just passive learning by watching this wonderful video, but I want you to turn it into active learning so that you can feel real progress in your English speaking skills. The expression scoot over. So this one, if someone's sitting next to you, and this could be sitting or standing, but let's say, let's say I want to sit on a bench and there's a little bit of space on one side and like a small space on the other. So I might sit down, or before I sit down, I would say, hey, can you scoot over? That just means move over. So scoot over, but we link scoot over. So you can say it politely, like, hey, would you mind scooting over a bit so I can fit? Or if it's someone that you're really close with, you might just say, hey, scoot over. I want to sit there. So how polite you are is totally up to you. You can use intonation and inflection. Okay, so Americans use the word period to end their sentences, and it's a way that we do it in a way so that it implies that there is no negotiation. Like, this is my final decision, my final statement. You can hear it with parents using it with children, like, you're gonna get 2 toys, period. You can use it with anyone, really. So whenever you want to emphasize it, that's it. Instead of saying that's it, try using period. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. I don't know where the 10-foot pole came from, but for some reason, that's the measure that we use to describe how absolutely we would never touch something. So wherever that distance came from, why a pole, I don't know, but when you hear someone say it, it doesn't mean that there's an actual 10-foot pole anywhere that we use. It's just a figure of speech. So for example, maybe on a chair, somebody had put their chewed gum and your friend tells you, oh, that's so gross. Can you clean that up for me? I don't want to touch it. And you might respond, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Clean it yourself. To each their own. Okay, so this expression is used, I find that I typically use it whenever you kind of either get to the end of a discussion. I think it can be used similarly to like agree to disagree, or when you're like, you know what, I don't know. I don't know why they do that. To each their own. It's kind of a way, for me, I use it when I want to end a conversation. It gives closure to when there's a little bit of a dispute, or maybe you're talking about someone else's actions and you don't really understand them. Like, to each their own. So it just means everybody do whatever makes them happy. I don't necessarily understand it, and that's okay. Now listen to the pronunciation. So if I were to do this word for word, to each their own, very robotic. But Americans tend to reduce the to. So instead of to each, it sounds like to each, to. To each their own, to. So not to, but to each their own. And now that you know that, pay attention to that, because you'll hear that Americans very rarely say to. Like when you study the pronunciation, to is a homophone of the number 2 and of too. Two. But in real life, to is often reduced to ta. So this will help you with listening better, feeling more comfortable, and it will also help you sound more natural. I can't even. So this is kind of a newer American expression. I think it's kind of known for being used by millennials. So I can't even. Grammatically, not complete, but it doesn't matter because we use it in real life. And we use it to mean like, I can't deal with that. I can't believe it. So you just have to listen to the context, but essentially that's what it means. For example, if you're having drama with a friend and you get a text message from her or him, and you just look at it and you might say like, I can't even. I'll respond later. So that means you can't deal with it right now. You just don't want to deal with it right now. Mostly it means you don't want to, not that you're physically incapable of. So I can't even. Now this one's tricky for language learners because of the contraction can't. Can't I find to be the hardest contraction to use because it's the one that has the biggest impact for miscommunication. So I can't even. If I say a word for word, can't. But when we use it in the expression, there's no air expelled at the end with a T sound. So I can't even. It almost sounds like can, but it's can't. So if this is one that when you say it causes confusion or you know it doesn't sound right, that's okay. You don't have to use everything you learn. For example, of all the expressions in this video, they're for exposure so that you feel comfortable listening and speaking with native speakers. Of the amount of phrases that you're going to learn, I want you to pick maybe 1 or 2 that you can learn how to use this week. Same thing with idioms and phrasal verbs, really anything. I find that expose yourself to a lot so that you feel comfortable in any setting, and then master a few. And then you build on that. So see, it's less pressure, right? But if you feel comfortable using it, now you know, like, oh, I can't even right now. Another one that's very popular right now, and that I say all the time, is I'm dying. Now I typically use that when I'm dying of laughter. So if someone is telling me a really funny story and I'm laughing really hard, I might say like, oh my God, I'm dying. Did that really happen? So I'm dying means I'm laughing really hard. In that context, it kind of meant like there was disbelief as well. So this is pretty, I don't know, I like it. I think it's fun. I'll also often say, specifically if I'm laughing, I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying laughing right now. I can't believe you did that. So I'm dying laughing right now. Now here, imagine if I were to say it this way, I'm dying. It would be so confusing because the word dying is, well, I mean, it's pretty drastic, pretty dramatic. So if your facial expression and body language doesn't match the meaning of the expression that you're using, it's very confusing. So again, in this context, it's very lighthearted. So you want to smile or laugh like, oh my God, I'm dying. Tell me more. To run errands. I love this one because it's very comprehensive. It kind of means a lot of things in one, and we use it a lot. For example, if you ask an American like, oh, what are you doing this weekend? They might say, oh, I'm just running some errands. So that means that they're going to the grocery store, maybe the dry cleaners, are going to pick up a present for someone. So all of those little things fall under the category of running errands. Like we typically, in casual conversations, we don't list everything. And I think that gets lost a little bit when you're learning English at the beginning or in a traditional sense. We learn how to talk about routine, how to say, going to the grocery. But in real life, we very rarely list it out because people don't care. Like, I don't actually want to know what errands you're running. It's sufficient to let me know that you're running errands. So that kind of tells me, okay, you're probably busy most of the weekend. Or it might tell me, okay, running errands is not like super important. It could be kind of flexible. So maybe I can still invite you out or plan something. Can you believe that? Can you believe it? Okay. This expression I love because we use it so much, and it's a rhetorical question. And that means that when people say it in this context, they don't expect an answer. For example, if we're talking about current events and I tell you about something crazy that the president did again this time, and I'm gonna be like, oh my God, I'm like, can you believe that? Can you believe he did that? Can you believe it? So here, I'm not actually asking or expecting you to say, yes, I believe it. It's just another way for me to express my shock about something. Now for the pronunciation, if we're using it, can you believe it? The v, believe, connects to it, believe it. Can you, instead of can you, it goes straight from the N to the y. Can you believe it? Okay, good. And remember, if you like this kind of high-level pronunciation, linking and blending tips, check out my courses. I'm obsessed with this stuff, and I think you'll like it too. It's worth it. It's not worth it. This expression is amazing because I'm always surprised at how many of my advanced students either haven't heard it or don't quite understand how to use it. and we use it all the time. So it just means that there's value to it. For example, if I'm asking you like, I don't know, like I'm thinking about going to Italy this summer, but it's kind of expensive. And you might say, oh, it's totally worth it. You should go. Italy is amazing, which it is. So that means that it's worth the value. It's worth the money. And we can use that for money. It could be for effort. It could be for time, whatever the case is. To say it's worth it means like, it's like encouraging someone like, yes, do it. Conversely, if we say it's not worth it, like maybe I would say, I'm thinking about going to Italy this summer, and you might say, you know what, it's not worth it. It's so hot. I think it would be better if you went in the fall. So it's not worth it means the money and the effort you're going to spend is just, you're not going to get a good return in the experience. So I would recommend a different time of year. For the pronunciation, notice that there's no pause. It's worth it. So we've got the SW, it's worth it, the TH and the I from it. It's worth it. So 3 words, actually 4, then we have the contraction, it's, and then we smush it all together and it sounds like one linked word. So this is a difference between it's worth it. It's worth it. So when you link and blend properly, it really helps with intonation. Not only does it kind of correct your pronunciation, but the rhythm and the intonation is much easier to get it right. So I want you to pay attention whenever you hear things that sound like they become one word. They kind of do. So it's something that you can practice now that you know how. Let's grab a coffee soon. So here, I don't actually mean like to grab the coffee. What I mean is I'm inviting you. So when we say to grab something, it typically means let's go out and get it. Let's go buy one, and it's often used in invitations. For example, oh, are you busy tomorrow? Let's go grab a coffee. So that means I want to go buy a coffee and spend time with you. So a lot of times we use it to catch up. Like, oh, we should grab a coffee and catch up soon. So that means we should go to a cafe, buy a coffee, and chat, to just talk. Do you want to grab a bite to eat? Now this one I love. So grab a bite. By itself, it doesn't really make sense. But now that you know that we use to grab, meaning almost as an invitation, and then a bite to eat, it's just another way of saying maybe lunch, not really breakfast unless you specify, or dinner. So let's grab a bite to eat soon. See how there it makes sense? I'm probably not inviting you to breakfast. So unless you specify, it usually means lunch or dinner. You want to grab a bite to eat? Now this could be cool, for example, if you work in an American or English speaking company and you want to go out to eat instead of eating a packed lunch. You might go to a colleague and say, hey, you want to grab a bite to eat? It's kind of this neutral expression. So if you have like a romantic intention, then you might want to say it a little differently. Like, do you want to grab dinner with me one day? I'd love to take you out. So if I say I'd love to take you out, it means I'm paying, and there it's a little clearer that it's probably a date versus something friendly. So if I were telling my friend, I would say, hey, you want to grab a bite to eat on Friday? Because it's a friend, we're probably going to pay for ourselves, so separate checks, and it's casual. So this is consider it like a neutral expression that you can use context to clarify if it's romantic or casual. And for the pronunciation, grab a coffee, grab a bite. So the B in grab links to the A sound. So grab a. Let's grab a coffee soon. Let's grab a coffee soon. No pause. All right, you did great. If you haven't already, make sure you write a sentence in the comment with your favorite expression. And remember, these are a lot. So you want to feel comfortable with all of them, familiar with them, and then you want to really master 1 or 2. So practice in the comments and I'll try to check to see if you're using it in the right context. Don't worry about mistakes.